Hi, everybody watching this video. My name is AC. You may know me from Twitter as Borderline Board Baby. That is Borderline Board BBB. No, wait, Borderline Board BB. Why? Borderline Board Baby. I am 24 years old and I am from America and I struggle with borderline personality disorder. I was diagnosed June 2020. I had been struggling a lot with my mental health, previously being diagnosed with PTSD, anxiety, depression, and ADHD when I was younger. So, yeah. Anyways, that's a little bit of background information on me. I wanted to create this channel because I feel like there is a huge negative stigma around borderline personality disorder, mainly being that we are abusive, dramatic, crybabies, manipulative. None of that is true. We have gone through trauma and we have trauma responses that may not always be healthy and they may not always be right, but that doesn't mean that we're wrong or that we're bad people. And I kind of wanted to create videos to show that, I suppose, as somebody with borderline personality disorder. And also I wanted to be able to create this channel to talk about things like the criteria for BPD, especially like in detail. I plan to use this Sometimes I Act Crazy by Dr. Gerald Kreisman and Hal Strauss. Don't come for me if I said their names wrong. I am not a pronunciation person. This book breaks it down into detail, like every criteria, like it literally goes symptom by symptom, and I would like to do that, I would like to do that with you guys. Yeah, in order to kind of further educate, and if anybody is confused, like you feel like you've read on the internet, people with borderline personality disorder struggle with interpersonal relationships, but you don't really know what that means, or that we struggle with abandonment issues and you're still kind of questioning, this is a great reference, and I will be going through it, and if you guys decide to watch, we will be going through it together, and I think that would be great. So what is borderline personality disorder? If you're here, you may already have it, so you kind of know a little bit about it. You may be questioning if you have it, so you may not know that much about it, or you may love somebody that has borderline personality disorder and you want to know more about it. So before we get into that, I kind of want to talk about how I got diagnosed and my just little background story from June 2020. It was probably March, and I had been having really terrible mental health issues. I was extremely jealous of my boyfriends at the time, like his relationship with his exes, even though they didn't speak to each other, and I thought that was kind of weird. Like, why am I focusing on that? Am I just an obsessive girlfriend? Am I crazy? So I googled it, and it actually, like, I don't remember what the exact question was I typed into Google, but it brought up a bunch of stuff about borderline personality disorder. It linked me to a video or a few videos about borderline personality disorder, and I watched them and I bawled my eyes out because I realized that feels like exactly what I'm going through. So I called my psychiatrist on Monday. It had been the first time I had ever even thought about going to a psychiatrist. I had been to therapy before for my parents' divorce and for other things, but I didn't really talk in therapy because I felt like the therapist was judging me, I guess. I don't really know. So I called the psychiatrist and I was like, look, I think that this is what's wrong with me. I'm having a mental breakdown. Things are not well. Can you help me? So I came in. I did a quiz. I don't remember exactly what the evaluation or the quiz was that he had me do, but he had me look at the 9 criteria of BPD, and I happened to fit all 9. So he was like, I'm pretty positive that you do have BPD, but where I'm from, it's not really diagnosed that often. So he gave me the Sometimes I Act Crazy book and told me to read it all, and if anything felt like it hit for me, to let him know, and that he would see me in 2 months. So yeah, I read the book. I highlighted everything. You can, I don't know if you guys can kind of tell, I highlighted and like wrote notes like in every chapter, so it hit very close to home to me. So I got back with him, and he put me on mood stabilizers, took me off my SSRIs, gave me some benzos for anxiety, and also referred me to a DBT therapist, which DBT is created specifically for people with borderline personality disorder by a lovely lady who had borderline personality disorder herself and realized that there wasn't enough help for us, or enough specific help for us, and that also mental health professionals tend to turn us away because we are seen as a lost cause or very emotional, which is very sad to me. But anyways, thank God for DBT. Another kind of motivating factor behind making this channel and these videos are to help people as well who cannot afford to go to therapy right now or cannot afford DBT, because in some areas, like, you can only pay out of pocket. It's very expensive. Insurance doesn't always cover it, because of the cluster disorder it's in. I don't remember. It's not always covered. It's very expensive. So a reason I decided to make this YouTube channel is because my DBT therapist gives me the worksheets, and I figured that we could, if you guys wanted to, work through each sheet week by week together, and maybe you guys can learn something along with me, like basic distress tolerance, grounding. I can't remember everything that DBT covers off the top of my head, but I figured that would be nice for my channel. And also, like, to kind of talk about a little bit more in depth the BPD stuff that you don't just get off a Google search. So, like, what is splitting? What are the different types of BPD? Things like that. What's dissociation? What's the difference between derealization and dissociation? How do I know that I have BPD? Like, those are things I want to talk about, and I want to talk about my personal experience. But for the purpose of this video, I just wanted to introduce myself, give you a quick rundown of what borderline personality disorder is, and give you like a little quick kind of condensed rundown of what the criteria are and what the criteria meant to me as I did them. Yeah, so enjoy it. Here we go. Borderline personality disorder is sometimes referred to as unstable personality disorder. There are 9 criteria of borderline personality disorder. In order to be diagnosed, you have to meet 5 of those criteria. Borderline got its name actually because, sorry, I had to get a screenshot of this because I couldn't remember. Because doctors used to think it was on the border between 2 different disorders, and that would be neurosis and psychosis. Whatever, I don't know. Maybe. Can't really tell you. About, I think, 1.6% of the United States population has borderline personality disorder. It's more commonly diagnosed in women than it is men, and it's not something that is just linked to the United States. I have personally met lots of lovely people from across the world who have been diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, and I can thank Twitter for that, and Discord. That was just a little side note, but anyways, it's not just limited. Like, borderline personality disorder isn't just limited to one type of person, to one type of circumstance, to one type of area, to one type of gender. It can affect anybody, but there are things that scientists suppose are risk factors, or that they think, like, kind of go into creating someone with borderline personality disorder. A few causes that they think have to do with borderline personality disorder are environmental factors. So that could be one or both of your parents were neglecting of you, growing up with a family member who has a substance abuse disorder, an alcohol abuse disorder, or like a mental health condition that may be untreated, such as bipolar disorder. So I know for me, my stepmom has untreated bipolar disorder, and that really like wreaked a lot of havoc in my life. Some other environmental factors that may be linked to borderline personality disorder are being a victim of abuse, whether that be sexual, physical, emotional, so on and so forth. I'm not going to invalidate any type of abuse. I think that any type of abuse can negatively impact your brain. So, another environmental factor is being exposed to long-term fear and distress as a child. So, a lot of instability in the home, I would say. Like, that's what I struggled with. I'm not saying that that's exactly what that means. I just know for me that that's what that means. We moved around a lot. My dad would come and go. My mom had postpartum depression, and she was doing the best that she could. I was the only child. Like, we grew up really poor. The environmental factors, I think, played a major part in my BPD. However, there are other causes that they are thought linked causes to borderline personality disorder. And these can include your brain function, so altered levels of serotonin and problems with brain development can or have been linked, I suppose. I don't know if they've actually been linked or if it's just theorized that they have something to do with borderline personality disorder, but there's that. The 3 parts of the brain that they found that are affected by borderline personality disorder or were affected in people with borderline personality disorder in an MRI were the amygdala, which it has to do with regulating your emotions, mostly negative ones, such as fear. I believe the other one was the hippocampus. So it regulates your behavior and self-control. And then don't come for me if I say this last one wrong. I am not a genius. But the orbital frontal cortex, which has to do with your planning and decision making. So those are some thought causes of borderline personality disorder. I've also seen somewhere that somebody, I don't know how true this is, but it was written that it may be a cause that well-meaning parents, not necessarily abusive parents, but parents who are trying to parent, that don't know how to deal with children that have extreme emotional responses. So, I don't really know that that's a cause or if it's just theorized, but please don't think that just because you didn't have this horrible, traumatic, abusive childhood that you're invalidated or that your borderline personality disorder is invalidated, because it's definitely not. It's definitely not. It doesn't matter. Those were just some thought causes. BPD is characterized by difficulties regulating emotions, which is why it is also sometimes called EUBD, emotional unstable personality disorder. Sorry, I had to think about that. So yeah. Also, you can have different symptoms that happen because of BPD. They kind of fit in with the criteria and they kind of don't. We'll get into the criteria in a minute, but some symptoms are emotional instability. So, like you have extreme shame, sorrow, rage, fear, like it just all the time, or even emptiness. I feel a lot of emptiness a lot of the time. A second symptom is disturbed patterns of thinking. that wasn't really elaborated on. I'm thinking that means like intrusive thoughts or disordered thoughts. So, like, a lot of the time, I know I personally struggle with intrusive thoughts, especially when it comes to my relationships. I always think that a boyfriend or a partner is actively looking for someone better than me, or that they wish to be with somebody else, and these are thoughts that I know that are not true, but they are just so intrusive. I also have disordered thinking about eating, and I have struggled with an eating disorder on and off for the majority of my life. Pardon me, it got extremely bad in December, but I've always had one. Anyways, I'm recovering slightly from that. Anyways, a third symptom of BPD is impulsive behavior. So, impulsively spending, overeating, impulsively reckless driving, unsafe sex, things like that. Those are categorized as impulsive behavior. I struggle with this a lot this weekend. I impulsively went and got my nose pierced and a tattoo on my arm and a tattoo on my finger just because I felt empty and I felt like I needed something to fill that gap. So that's what I did. Not saying that that's healthy, but you know. Another symptom is intense but unstable relationships with others. So for me, that usually manifests in relationships. It just does. Like, it just always manifests in relationships for me. Like, a lot of idolization, I suppose, of like the partner of my partner in the beginning. A lot of idolization. There's nothing that they can do wrong, and then they disappoint me one time, and I devalue them, and it's just insane. I don't know. Like, it's annoying. It's like a roller coaster. But anyways, usually the symptoms and the signs of BPD, they emerge in adolescence, but I'm pretty sure you can't get diagnosed in adolescence. I'm pretty sure you have to be an adult. And also, I think that's because a lot of it has to do with, like, teens get misdiagnosed with depression, they get misdiagnosed with ADHD. Like, for me, that's what happened. I got misdiagnosed with ADHD, even though I had borderline personality disorder. And usually these symptoms that emerge in adolescence, they persist into adulthood. So, my therapist told me usually that if a person is a raging I cannot talk. If a person is a raging borderline in their 20s, by their 40s, they're mostly calmed down, even without any, like, therapy or help. So, there's that. Moving along, though, we are going to talk about, I don't know what the fuck I am doing an accent for, but we're going to talk about the condensed 9 criteria for BPD. As I stated before, you only have to be diagnosed. You only have to meet 5 criteria to be diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. I'm going to share what those are. I'm going to share which ones, well, I already told you all 9 of them fit for me, but I'm just going to give you, like, a short little rundown on all of them. And then in later videos, I will break them down, like, and we'll go criteria by criteria, but just for this purpose. The first criteria is fear of abandonment, and so, I mean, that sounds exactly like it is. You're scared to be abandoned by friends, by family, by loved ones, by partners, by anybody. And it can actually prompt you to engage in frantic efforts to keep people closer. So I know for me in the past, when I've broken up with people, when people have broken up with me, like, I've called and I've called and I've called and I've called hundreds of times. I've texted, please don't leave me. I promise I won't be like this. Please don't leave me. And then it's also flipped switch on me to where if I feel like I'm going to be abandoned, or I really like the person and I don't want to be abandoned, I will absolutely push them out of my life. Like, you're not gonna abandon me because there's not gonna be anything to abandon. I'm not gonna be here. So that's criteria number one. Criteria number two is unstable relationships. I kind of mentioned this a little bit before, but people with BPD tend to fall in love quickly and intensely. It almost reminds me of like a movie romance, and that's pretty much exactly how they play out too. Like, you're really attached to the person at first. You can't find anything wrong with them. You think that they're going to save you. They're going to be your hero. They're going to be everything you ever wanted them to be. And then you find one thing wrong and you devalue them, and it can be, you just feel let down. But it's more than let down, because it's like the whole weight of your world is like crashing in on you, because I know, like, for me, like, I've thought this person is, like, my hero, my savior, and there is no middle ground in my thinking. You're either all good or all bad, which we'll get to in a later video that can be called splitting. We'll talk about the different types at a different time, but yeah. And it, just for me, my unstable relationships usually happen, like, in romantic relationships, but it can also happen with family members, with friends, romantic partners, co-workers, so on and so forth. The third criteria is a unclear self-image. So your sense of self is very unstable. You can feel really good about yourself one minute, and then you can have no fucking clue who you are the next. So, or you can, like, view yourself as evil as well. And like I stated with the previous criteria, we talked about splitting a little bit. That's kind of splitting on yourself, seeing yourself in all one light and then seeing yourself in all of another light with no middle ground. That can be really damaging personally. I know, especially for me, because I know I'm not stupid. I know I'm not a bad person. I know I'm funny and I know I'm caring, but at the same time, my brain flips on me because I don't have a stable sense of self, so I think I'm a piece of trash, I'm undeserving of love, that everything I've ever done is just bad, and yeah. Also, this unclear self-image can, you really have no idea who you are, I guess, so it can cause you to change jobs, to change religions, to change lovers, change friends, change values. I know when I was younger, I would change my values at the drop of a hat, depending on who I was around, because I didn't want them to not like me and to not abandon me. Now I'm a little bit better about that I'm grown. I can kind of stick to what I think is right and what I think is wrong, so that's good at least. Moving on to criteria number 4. Some impulsive self-destructive behaviors. And these are harmful, so I don't know, like, I wrote that really badly, so it's kind of hard to read. Harmful sensation-seeking behaviors when upset. So these can be impulsively spending money. Hi, that's me. I impulsively spend money all the time. I have a Amazon credit card, which I spend on all the time. I go to the mall and I spend money constantly because I like it to be right in my hands when I buy it. I bought my car impulsively. I bought a motorcycle impulsively. I've went on vacations impulsively. I'm lucky enough that I have my BPD and anxiety in check, that I can work, and I have a flexible work schedule, so that enables me to have more money and to be able to spend more. I don't have anything in my savings account. I'm 24. I don't own my own house. I have a stable job, but I spend so much money impulsively that it's hard for me to get it together. So, some other impulsive self-destructive behaviors can be driving recklessly, so texting and driving, drinking and driving, smoking pot and driving. I see y'all out there, I know. Shoplifting, engaging in risky sex, so not that there's anything wrong with having multiple partners, but not making sure that sex is safe and that you are protected. Anyways, binge eating and drug and alcohol abuse. Those are all extremely common ones. The ones I mainly deal with, I used to really badly deal with engaging in risky sex when I was younger, like 14 to 17. I still impulsively spend. I've never really shoplifted or anything like that. And then drugs and alcohol, I'm not going to talk about on this channel because I don't want to get demonetized or anything. I'm not even monetized, but if I do, I don't want to get demonetized. I do binge eat though. Usually it will be after not eating 4 days. I will binge and make myself feel sick. So, excuse me. Criteria number 5 is self-harm, and that includes suicidal behavior and self-harm. It's commonly includes thinking about suicide, making suicidal gestures or threats, or even carrying out an attempt. And then these self-harm behaviors can also include things like cutting and burning, or pulling out your hair, or cutting and burning are the two main ones that get pointed out a lot because I think they're probably really dangerous. I don't really know. I used to superficially scratch myself with scissors for self-harm because it was more about release than anything. It wasn't really about the pain level, so, stuff like that. Just because you don't cut or you don't burn, if you're still harming yourself, that's still a valid self-harm behavior. I don't want you to think that just because they weren't listed, they aren't valid, because they are. Anyways, the number 6 criterion is extreme emotional mood swings. So we live moment by moment. One moment we could be happy, the next moment we could be despondent, the next moment we could be in a rage. We can't predict how we're going to feel that day. I could wake up at 11 o'clock. I don't know why I said 11 o'clock. I could wake up at 8 o'clock, be the happiest person on top of the moon. 11:30 rolls around, something has set me off, I'm pissed off, I don't want to talk to anybody, or I want to be raging. I'll go take a shower and try to get it out of my mind, and then 12 rolls around, and then I'm despondent, and I don't feel anything, and I'm shut off from reality. 12:30 rolls around, I'm happy again. It's a roller coaster. I can't predict what I'm going to feel or when I'm going to feel it, and then the intensity of emotions, they are so intense. If you have borderline personality disorder, you know what I'm talking about. It literally feels like you have no skin and all your nerve endings are just sticking out and everything is just bothering you. My emotions I just feel like I can be rubbed the wrong way and it will set me off. I'll cry, I'll scream. My emotions are so tense. And also people with borderline personality disorder, I saw in this one girl's video that it takes us, longer to calm down than it does neurotypical people, so our mood swings are intense, and they last a little bit longer. However, they don't last as long as bipolar disorder mood swings or manic depressive mood swings. I'm not quite sure because I don't know that much about bipolar disorder because I don't have it personally, but I believe that their episodes last longer, whereas borderline episodes last usually moments to hours. So, yeah. Little things can send me into an emotional tailspin, too. Little things that normally wouldn't bother people. One big trigger for me that used to be really big, and it still kind of happens every once in a while, is if I think that I have something clean and it's not clean, or I can't find something. I used to have absolute freakouts where I don't even know if you would call it freakout, but I would sit on the floor, tear all of the clothes out of my closet, sit on that pile of clothes and just cry and be like, why doesn't anything ever happen good for me? And obviously I sounded a lot more than I am right now. Right now I'm on my mood stabilizer, so I'm pretty stable. My mood is not going to revert back to what it was then, but it was embarrassing a lot. And then one time I kicked a hole in the wall, just a bunch of woohoo stuff. Now I can kind of take those those emotional mood swings and turn them inwards. The seventh criteria is chronic feelings of emptiness. So you may feel like a nothing or a nobody with a hole inside of you. For me, this is exasperated when I am not around people. I have to keep the television on constantly, or I have to be on my phone constantly in order to not feel empty. Also feeling empty like this, like there's nothing that can satisfy it. It usually leads people with BPD to have impulsive behaviors and to self-harm, such as like we'll call the feeling of emptiness with food, like overeating or drugs or even sleeping too much or self-harm, impulsive spending, sex, things like that. Whatever it takes to not feel empty. Literally whatever it takes to not feel empty. Excuse me. Excuse me again. The eighth criteria to be diagnosed with borderline personality disorder is explosive anger, and it is basically where you're consumed by rage, and it can be outward or inward. So when I was younger, when I was probably, 10 to 17, a lot of my rage was outward. I, at one point in time, was splitting on objects, and I split on my phone, and I bit it, and I broke the screen, and like I said before, I've kicked a hole in the wall, I've broken people's shit, I've broken my own shit, I've thrown things across the wall, I've pulled out my own hair, I've hit myself in the face, like, things like that. But as I've gotten older, I've turned all my anger inwards, and it's at myself, and it's like, I hate you, why are you this way? And that's kind of what leads to the self-harm behaviors for me, as well as the anger, because it's like, I feel with like BPD anger and with rage, that you can physically feel it welling up inside you. So some people say they feel their BPD anger in their chest. Sometimes I feel it there, but personally I usually feel it behind my ear, and it literally like feels like something is like tugging on my brain, or like I have static electricity right on my brain just pushing there, and that if I don't do something, then it's like my head is just going to explode, whether it be hurt myself, start a fight, start an argument. Like, I have to do it, or else it just sits. The anger just sits, and it just presses, and it's so odd, and I don't know how to describe it to people, but I know that some people with borderline personality disorder know exactly what I'm talking about, because on my Twitter they have expressed that to me before, that they have also felt the actual pain, like the actual like anger, I guess, not pain. The ninth criteria to be diagnosed with borderline personality disorder is feeling suspicious or out of touch with reality. So some people with BPD struggle with paranoia or suspicious thoughts about others. For me, when I'm splitting, some people split black and white, but for me, it's more like I split paranoia versus non-paranoia. So when I split on somebody, that paranoia really takes over, and you're just out to hurt me, nothing has ever been genuine, you don't really love me, you don't care about me, you're just out to hurt me, like you're talking shit about me behind my back, I'm constantly scared that I'm gonna get fired at work, even when I do everything perfectly, like even when I go above and beyond my job, like it's just paranoia constantly that something bad is going to happen, the other shoe is going to drop. And for some people, that can transcend into distorted realities. I don't necessarily deal with that so much. I just deal with a lot of paranoia, and also the out of touch with reality can lead to dissociation, which for some people, I know for me anyways, it's a defense mechanism to not feel what is going on around me, and I can't describe dissociation for everybody because it's different for a lot of people, but for me, it's just like I'm not connected to my body. Like I'm not connected to the moment. I'm somewhere else. I'm not sure like it's partially therapeutic, but it's partially not, because like I'm taking myself out of the moment to not get hurt, but then at the same time I'm taking myself out of the moment so I don't have to process it, and that's what's not therapeutic about it. So you can have some common co-occurring disorders with BPD. Like I said, I'm depressed. A lot of people with BPD have depression and anxiety, and it can also be coupled with bipolar disorder and eating disorders. We kind of talked about why the eating disorders plays into the self-harm and things like that, and feeling empty and trying to have control of your life. So there's multitudes of treatment for BPD. That doesn't mean that they are always accessible. I know for me, I live in an extremely small town in a southern area, so personality disorders are rarely heard of, and we literally just opened our first DBT clinic within a 100-mile radius in like December. So I know it's not always easy or accessible, but that's also what I'm kind of creating this channel for, so maybe there's some sort of help. But the other treatments include community mental health teams, so a psychiatrist, a psychologist, a social worker, a pharmacist, just everybody on your team. That's kind of what I have right now. I wouldn't really call it a community mental health team because I outsource all these people and they don't work at one facility. I don't know if that really counts or not. Some other things you can do are psychotherapy, DBT, which is what I'm doing right now. I just started. It was created for borderline personality disorder specifically by somebody with borderline personality disorder, so I love that. I think her name is Marsha Lynham. I don't know. Please don't come for me if I said that wrong. I don't know. You can also do MBT. I don't really know what that stands for. I wrote it down on my paper, but I forgot. Art therapy, and then medications. A lot of the times, there's not like one specific medication that targets borderline personality disorder or even symptoms. A lot of the times doctors will put you on things like SSRIs or antidepressants if you are struggling with the depression from borderline personality disorder, or they can give you benzos for the anxiety, which is what I have, or they can give you mood stabilizers for the unstable moods. I am on mood stabilizers. I have not been on them long enough to actually tell you if they work or not because I continuously take and then stop taking them. Story of my life. I don't really know why I do that. It's just something that I do. I'm trying to think if there was anything else that I really wanted to add to this, but I think that covered everything like really well, kind of fast, like a short 40-minute video about who I am, a little bit of my background, and then just like the criteria, the diagnostic criteria, just a quick little rundown of that. I plan to be posting more videos, like I said, so if you guys could give me a like and a follow or a subscribe. On YouTube, I am Borderline Board Baby BBY, and it is the same on Twitter and Twitch. So I hope that all of my borderline baddies have a good day, and I will see you all soon.